Your subconscious mind has never experienced a single moment in sequence. Every memory you carry, every future you've imagined, every version of yourself you've inhabited, they all pulse simultaneously in the deeper layers of your awareness. You've felt this, that strange certainty about something that hasn't happened yet, or the way a childhood wound can flood your body with sensation, as though it's occurring right now. By the end of this, you'll understand why working with time differently is the missing key to every manifestation that's felt stuck. Consider what happens when you dream. Hours pass in minutes. You meet people who died years ago and interact with them as though nothing changed. You find yourself in places that blend 3 different apartments you lived in across a decade. Your dreaming mind treats all of these time frames as equally accessible, equally real, equally present. This is your subconscious showing you its native language. Linear time, the ticking clock, the calendar page, belongs to the waking conscious mind. It's a tool for navigating physical reality. Useful, necessary even. But the deeper mind operates by a completely different architecture. Neville Goddard taught this with striking clarity. He described the subconscious as dwelling in an eternal now where all states already exist. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you're selecting from states that are already complete, already formed, already available. The work of manifestation in this framework has nothing to do with creating something new in a future that doesn't exist yet. You're tuning into a frequency that's already broadcasting. So why does this matter practically? Because most people approach their inner work with a timeline contamination. They affirm something and then immediately measure it against the clock. A week passes, 2 weeks, a month, and the old story creeps back in. It should have happened by now. That thought reveals the real problem. You're still operating from the conscious mind's insistence that events must unfold sequentially, that cause must precede effect in a neat line. The subconscious disagrees completely. Think about how trauma works. A sound, a smell, a phrase, and suddenly your body responds as though an event from 20 years ago is happening in this room, in this second. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tense, your breathing shifts. The body doesn't distinguish between then and now, because the subconscious mind fed it that memory as a present tense experience. The implication cuts both ways. If past events can be experienced as present by the subconscious, then future states can be experienced as present too. The mechanism is identical. The direction is the only difference. This is where mental rehearsal becomes something far more than visualization. When you close your eyes and construct a scene that implies your desire is fulfilled, feeling the texture of it, hearing the words, sensing the environment, your subconscious receives this with the same weight it gives any lived experience. Research on mental rehearsal in athletes confirms the physical response. Muscles fire in the same patterns, skill acquisition occurs, the body prepares itself for something it has only experienced internally. The subconscious treated the imagined event as real, as present, as now. But there's a challenge buried in this principle that most teachings skip past too quickly. If all states exist simultaneously and the subconscious doesn't distinguish between timeframes, then your dominant state, the one that feels most real, most inhabited, is what broadcasts into your experience. And for most people, the dominant state is the one reinforced by years of repetition, the old story, the familiar limitation, the identity that's been rehearsed 10,000 times. One vivid imagination session doesn't automatically override that. The subconscious responds to saturation and emotional intensity. A single session where you touch the feeling of the wish fulfilled matters deeply. But the accumulated weight of every day you've spent in the opposite assumption also matters. This is why Neville emphasized persistence. Why he spoke about making the new assumption your dwelling place, living in it, returning to it, sleeping in it, night after night, until the old state loses its grip. You're rewriting the dominant signal. And in a field where all times exist simultaneously, something I kept thinking about while a tune was retuning a song to 432 Hz on my phone. Link in the description. The dominant signal is what determines which state crystallizes into your physical experience. Here's where people stumble. They understand the concept intellectually, but continue to monitor reality for evidence. They peek, they check. And every time they look at the physical world and say, "It hasn't changed yet," they're re-entering the old state and feeding it dominance. The clock becomes an enemy because they've given it authority it was never meant to have. Time, in the subconscious realm, is a dimension you move through by feeling, by assumption, by the state you most frequently occupy. You don't wait for your desire to arrive in a future moment. You dwell in the state where it already exists, and the physical world rearranges to match. Consider revision, one of the most practical applications of non-linear time in consciousness work. Neville taught that you can revise past events, rewrite them in imagination, change the memory, feel the revised version as true. Most people dismiss this as denial or delusion, but if the subconscious doesn't experience time linearly, if past, present, and future exist as simultaneous accessible states, then revision is simply selecting a different state from the same field of possibilities. You're changing which signal dominates. And when the dominant signal shifts, the chain of events that flows from it shifts too. People who've practiced revision consistently report something strange. The external circumstances connected to those revised memories begin to shift. Relationships soften. Opportunities reappear. The rigid cause and effect chain that seemed locked in place loosens, because you altered the state at its root in the timeless space where all versions coexist. A skeptic within the spiritual framework might ask, if all states already exist, does effort even matter? If everything is already done, why persist? Why discipline the mind at all? The answer lives in the difference between existence and dominance. Every possible state exists in potential, always, but your experience, the slice of reality you inhabit, reflects whichever state carries the most weight in your awareness. Effort, discipline, mental diet, these are the tools that shift weight from one state to another. You're selecting, with increasing precision, which already existing state becomes your lived reality. The practical application is this. Stop approaching your inner work as though you're building something in a future that hasn't arrived. Instead, recognize that the state you desire already exists fully formed. Your work is occupational, you occupy it. You dwell in it, you return to it so frequently and with such emotional fidelity that your subconscious accepts it as the dominant present tense reality. When doubt arises, and it will, notice what's happening. The conscious mind is reasserting its timeline. It's saying, "Where is it?" as though your desire must travel through space and time to reach you. But nothing travels. States shift. One state fades from dominance, another rises. The transition can feel instantaneous or gradual from the conscious mind's perspective, but in the subconscious, it already happened the moment you truly dwelled there with complete acceptance. Your job each night, as you drift towards sleep, that liminal threshold where the conscious mind releases its grip, is to enter the state of the wish fulfilled as though it's the most natural thing in the world, as though remembering something that already occurred. Because in the architecture of your deeper mind, it did. Sleep in that state. Wake in that state. Let the day challenge it, and return to it anyway. Each return strengthens the signal. The version of you that has what you desire exists right now, in this moment, as a state you can access through feeling alone. The distance between you and that version has nothing to do with days on a calendar. It's measured entirely in the quality of your assumption. Close that gap tonight. Close it with feeling. Close it with the quiet certainty of someone who already knows what happened. Because in the only mind that matters, it already did.